Welcome to another episode of the Fuzz Digital podcast. Today we are joined by our fascinating wizardry friend here. Apparently he does wonders in paid media. Chris,
Thanks so much.
thank you for joining me. If you're new here to the podcast, we sort of do this as a way of speaking about all things marketing, try and deep dive into things. So we've started with our managers, of course, and today we're doing paid media. So Chris, thank you once again for joining, and tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into paid media, who you are.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me over. It's always exciting to be part of these podcasts. My process in paid media is actually a very wonky one, since it started out with social media marketing. Since I did social media marketing back in 2018 and 2017, and then back like in June and July of 2019, some companies asked me, hey, they want to run some ads, but they're not sure how to do it. And obviously I didn't know how to do it, but they didn't know that. So I just told them, yeah, sure, give me your money, I'll do it.
Why not?
Hey, why not? Let's give it a shot. And I started setting some things up, realized I was horrible at it, but I faked it all the way. They were happy because they saw something at least happening. But as things went on and on, I had to spark, I had to learn more. So I signed up for a few Skillshares and Udemy courses and learned. But that wasn't really the kind of help I needed. So I got another job actually at a agency that just does marketing within the eye care field. And they had this excellent guy that does paid media for them. And he taught me pretty much everything I needed to know. And that kind of translated into where I am now. But yeah, now I have another mentor who's helping me with some advanced stuff. So I didn't even know that paid media was this much development work as it currently is. So it's somewhere between a marketer and a developer is what I'm doing.
I think it's a very fascinating field. It's a little bit more than people think it is. I think people look at it as a sort of surface level, but there's much more to that than meets the eye, I guess. You did say you're somewhere between like marketing and dev. So I feel paid marketing, like paid media is a very important role in marketing itself. So what does paid media actually encompass, and why is it so important for marketing?
Okay, yeah, that's an excellent question. And that's one I wish more people would actually ask, because they're like, hey, can you run ads for us? And like, yeah, sure, but do you know what that means? And so what that means is you have to know what your website is doing and what you want your website to do. Because most of the time, I can't run ads if you don't know what you want to achieve with your website. If you're selling something, but you don't have the right integrations on your website to sell products, or the right pay gates to take their money from users or something like that, then I can't really do my job to run ads for you, because I'm nowhere near tracking what I do and justifying what I'm doing. So I guess tracking is the most important thing for paid media. And what that is more than tracking is audience segmentation, since you don't want to just throw ads there in a spray and pray method, they call it. You want to go with some segmentation, and you want to know who you're showing your ads to. And I guess the last part would be just the copy and the content, since social media marketing has come a long way since the Wild West days. But content is certainly one of the main drivers. And you can have the best segmentation in the world, but if your copy is not compelling enough for a user to want to click, then they're simply not going to click. They're going to scroll past your ads. And if your ads don't have the kind of keywords that people are looking for in it, then they'll just scroll right past it.
I think you have a very difficult field to be in, because a lot of people, like you said, just do the method of like, I want ads, and they don't really tell you what you want, but then they're also unsatisfied with the results because they're not specific enough. So as you said, you need to be targeted with what you're doing, but then also you are sort of relying on everybody else.
Exactly.
If the creative isn't good, then the paid media is not going to be good.
Exactly. I'll tell you actually a funny story that happened. Is I was doing an audit for a guy that sells lighting fixtures and fans on his website, right? And everything was going pretty much all right with his website, but he had ads running himself. So he asked me to have a look at the ads. It's not doing good. What does he need to improve on? And I checked some of the terms that his ads showed up for. So the things people search for and when his ads showed up. And a lot of the searches include stuff like, what is the best fan in the world? Who is the best Marvel fan? Who is the best this fan and that fan? And I kind of explained to him the semantics between it is a fan, but it's more in the social context of a follower of Marvel or a follower of DC. And it's not a fan like you install on your roof. And he just couldn't quite get it at first. So I had to get him a few examples to explain that we don't want our ads to show up for that kind of stuff. And that's how you filter out the relevant traffic.
I think that's also a difficult one because now he's getting foot traffic for fans. It's just the wrong fans.
Exactly.
So I think, once again, this sort of leads into if paid media is done well, it can yield like incredible results.
Yes.
And if it's done poorly, it can do the exact opposite.
Yes.
So can you give us some examples of where you perhaps had a very good campaign where it led to something really great?
Yeah, this is actually a funny story. Is when I started with Fuzz, the guys told me they had Google Ads running. And I had no clue of what they were doing, so I asked them, hey, do you mind if giving me access? I'll take a look at it. And I opened it up, and there was some Performance Max campaigns running and some search campaigns running. And I guess they were doing okay, but the problem, and it's not really a problem, it's something that people don't inherently know to do. But with Google Ads, you need to be segmenting your stuff as much as you possibly can. You start with a catch-all, but then you start building it out into the various concepts. And they had everything in one basket, essentially. So the ads didn't do that well, since people would get served an ad for... Okay, let's just be clear. One example is for 3D store, 3D printing store, right? And they would serve ads for a 3D printer on a search term that somebody was searching for filament. So although it's related, it's not the product the person is looking for, so they wouldn't click on the ad. So that's where I'm talking about with the segmentation. So if you segment your ads better to show up only for when people search for filaments, then generally you'll do fine, and your ads will get a high click-through rate and a conversion rate too.
So it's basically about not just having the broad term, but also narrowing down into specific fields of what you actually want to reach. Because like you said, 3D printers might be the relevant field of filament, but a person looking for filament might not be looking for filament.
Exactly. Or a person looking for filament might not necessarily be in the market for a brand new printer. And if you're serving an ad for them, they're just like, no, I'm not going to click on that. So even if you do sell filaments, then later on, they wouldn't know that. They just saw you serve them a printer, and they weren't looking for a printer at that stage. Just following up on what happened with the campaign was I started building it out into the various segments of filaments, printers, scanners, all those kinds of things. And where we're currently standing at, it's very much segmented into various aspects, but we still kept that same format of Performance Max and search campaigns. But the only difference was when we started the ads, we had a return on ad spend of 4 for the Google ads and a return on ad spend of 6 on the Meta ads. But we're currently standing on a return of ad spend of 28 for the Meta ads and a return on ad spend of 16.5 or 16.8. For the Google ads. So we nearly quadrupled the return on ad spend just because we segmented it, the audiences, the terms, all those kinds of things.
So it comes down to the best practices of actually getting into paid media.
Yeah.
So now you've mentioned the segmentation. What other things do you feel like are best practices that companies can follow?
I guess, this is where the dev comes in, is if the companies know what they're tracking, then you're halfway there with your ads. Because most of the time people set up the ads and they won't know if they're tracking a purchase successfully or if they're tracking, people just visiting a site. So what I've seen happen most of the time is people set up, when you click the button that says start checkout, right? People set that up as a purchase action, but that isn't necessarily a purchase action since someone did not complete the money transfer and everything yet. And you'll be surprised to know how many people click on the checkout, but they don't fill in the details and they don't pay the money over it. But you're still tracking it as a purchase then. So you're thinking, hey, I made 67 sales yesterday, but actually, in fact, you made only like 20 sales because people were, back and forth. And you can't really change people, but you can change your tracking. So if you have the right tracking to only track them at the end of the process, when payments have already been received and the order number has been sent to them, the web, then you're 100% there. And the same with submitting lead forms. So if you have a lead contact and you have people filling in a form, you don't want them to count the conversion when somebody just hits submit. You want it when all the fields have been filled out and all the right information has been captured. Then you want to submit it. Then you want to know what has been tracked.
Once again, it comes down to, you said dev and tracking and making sure that you actually know what it is that you are wanting to track. And then, of course, once you know that, you know how to serve the ads to the correct people. Is that sort of correct?
Yes, that's right. So the dev and tracking is 50% of your ads. So if you know what exactly you are tracking, so when you track a purchase, you know that it's at the end of the line of the purchase. It's not just beginning the checkout process, because I've seen many advertisers do that. They count the start of the checkout process as a conversion, where that isn't necessarily a conversion because no money has been transferred anywhere. So if you track the end of the line purchase, when somebody's order number and label has already been issued to them, then you know that's certainly a purchase. And the same thing happens with lead forms. Is people put the button that you click, form submit, they put that as their conversion action. But we know people sometimes they fill in like their first name, last name, and they hit submit. And there's no way of contacting them, there's no way of anything, but you're counting a conversion. It looks great on your data, but there's no way of following up with this person. Hey, do you want more info? So only when certain fields have been, or certain criteria have been met, you can count a certain thing as a conversion. And trust me, that's like 50% of the work done. If you know that's been done, then you know you can start with creating your ads and going tracking. Because with most of these tools like Google, Meta, TikTok, all the algorithms are set up to optimize for your conversions. So if your conversions are correct, it will certainly optimize for it. But if it's wrong, it will also optimize for it. So you optimize in the wrong direction.
So then you're just going to get worse and worse results because you're optimizing wrong.
True. That's very real. That's exactly what happens.
It sounds like you need to have your dev side. You need to know what it is that you're tracking for. Get your creative correct, because if it's not compelling for people to click through, they're not going to click through. And then great segmentation. It seems like those are the best practices to follow.
I'd like to add one expert advice to know what's in your data layer. If you're currently doing ads and you have somebody doing the ads for them, ask them, do you guys know what's in your data layer? Because that is where the information that gets hashed and sent back to Google comes in. And that's the kind of information that enhances the quality of your conversions and helps Google and Meta track better how your ads are serving.
So now that we have sort of the best practices, how important is competitors like analysis in the process of paid media?
And that's an interesting question. I always get asked about competitor ads. And the funny thing is I take a reversed approach to it. So I create my ads first, my copy, the content, and that kind of stuff before I even look at my competitors. And I'll tell you why I do that is because, firstly, if you start looking at your competitors before you create your ads, you're biasing yourself. So then your ads will start to look like your competitors' ads, and then you have no edge. Whereas if you go without looking at your competitor ads, you can create like your unique thing, and you can know, okay, when you look at your competitor ads afterwards, you can say, hey, okay, maybe this is not in line with the terminology they use, or this is not kind of what they do. So yeah, I would say do that after you have your content and everything ready, and start with segmenting it in terms of your competitors. But most of the time, I also like to use my competitors as ways of not knowing what to do. So if I see a competitor ad has been served 4 or 5 times to me, then I know, hey, I don't want to serve my ads 4 or 5 times to people. It's irritating. And vice versa, or whatever I learn. I take experiences from their mistakes.
Yeah. No, it's very important finding that balance, because you want to be able to serve people things that they want to see, but you don't want to spam people with things, even though that they might be interested in it. It's not that they might be interested in it now, or it might be, once again, you segmented it wrong and you're giving 3D printers, but now they're associating you as the brand as sort of a spammy brand instead of having, but you're actually giving me the solution to my problem.
Exactly. There's the difference between dangling the carrot and forcing it down their throat.
Exactly. So can you give me an example perhaps of a campaign that you ran where you used competitive data and sort of helped improve the paid media?
Yeah, exactly. There was an ad, I'm not going to name any names here, but it was an ad from a big company that I kept saying on, I think it was Instagram and a bit on Facebook, but more on Instagram is where I got the learning from. Is I saw it serving a couple of times on various platforms or various placements on Instagram. So both stories, both the reels, both in feed. But the problem with that was I kept seeing it too much. I was like, I'm so tired of this ad. And I started, changing my recommendations. I don't want to see this ad anymore. And I thought to myself, hey, I never ever checked my own ads. How many times did they serve to people? And at that stage, I was serving up to like 6 times per 30 days to people. And at that stage, I decided, no, firstly, it's going to cost us a lot less if we serve it less to people. And secondly, we won't run the opportunity of irritating people with the ads. So I decreased that frequency that we show the ads to between 5 and 2. So at no least than 2 times it will serve in 30 days. And another thing that I've seen advertisers do is generally with their content, they'll be too wordy with it. So your content only needs to lead people to your website. Your website has everything they need on it. So I don't put like a description of every product on the ads. That they can find that information on their site. So I try to say as least as possible, or as little as possible on the ads, and then try to have the algorithm optimize it for that kind of audiences that will find it.
It seems like the algorithm is always the word that's being used, and sort of back end, and all these things sort of run off of data. And I think data is a very important field. Like even for creative, data runs sort of everything.
Yeah.
How important do you think analytics are, and how do you think businesses should use analytics to drive their paid to get better results?
Oh wow. That's the question of the century, because data should be the foundation of your ads. Because once we started doing that, we have an excellent data department here at Fuzz. And once they provided us with some information, I could really segment the audiences and I could really decide how I want to show the ads. So an example of this is with our meta ads. What I like to do is I like to create two forms of ads. One that reaches users who might be interested, and others that targets people that we know are interested. So I take the data that the data team provides me and I create campaigns just targeting those people that we know are interested. That's people who have purchased, or people that have added to their cart, or people that have made a lot of decisions on the website. But if I feel there are people, or let's say this, I create the campaign for awareness purposes that, I don't know if there are 4 million people, interested in these products or not, but they still serve the ads to them. The difference comes in when they interact with our ads or they interact with the website. That's when I start getting the real data. So that data needs to go through a process. And once it's processed and it comes to me, then I can update the ads. And that's why data is so important, because you can only serve so many good ads to people if you know what you're serving to. And irrelevant traffic is something that's always it's something you always need to try to get down.
And it seems like you guys have the method of let's serve to a big audience that might want to see it.
Yeah.
Then once again, take the data that you get from that, and then do you guys serve to the people who have interacted then separately on the they are definitely interested side, or do you keep serving them on the big side?
No. So once they move over, if they have interacted with the website or with the ads before, then we only serve the other ads to them. They're kind of moved through the funnel. They will not see the awareness ads again. And this process kind of moves through that funnel of getting used to the people that you want on your website versus the people that you just think might be interested.
Yeah.
But another thing that I kind of do as a extra safe fold is I like to put a boundary on who I serve my ads to. So if somebody's purchased something in the last 15 days, I don't want to show them my ads again, because it's most likely they're not going to be purchasing a 10,000 Rand item again in the next 15 days.
Yeah.
After that, maybe, but in that next 15 days, I also put that limitation of who do I not want to show my ads to.
Yeah, because it's clear that they've made the purchase. So they're either going to come back because they had a great experience, or they don't have money now again to necessarily spend, or don't have the need to necessarily spend on something again. But what are some of the sort of big mistakes that you see businesses make when it comes to sort of their paid media?
I'd say some of the biggest mistakes they do is they tend to not make use of their data departments if they have them. If they don't have them, I mean, not everybody could be as cool as Fuzz, but if they don't have data departments, I would very much compel them to give us a shot. We're very good at that. But they don't have the right data to fund and funnel their advertising. So I'd say that's one of the things that they do is they don't target their audiences specifically, and they don't exclude the amount of irrelevant traffic and irrelevant audiences. And another thing I see advertisers do that's kind of shocking is they spend way too much. So the whole point of advertising is to get you out there and make you more money, right? But I'd see advertisers that break even with their ads, since they're making the same amount of money that they're spending on the ads. But that's not the whole goal of the process. So with better data, with better tracking, with better ad copy, you can actually exceed that way beyond limitations. And if you'd asked me, is this possible? Like 2 years ago, I would have said no. But now I know it's certainly, regardless of the situation, you can do that. You just have to find the right things to exclude and the right things to include.
I think also a lot of these platforms do have a lot of data these days. Like, for example, TikTok. I think we always keep coming back to TikTok. TikTok has so much data on people.
Yeah.
If you're trying to serve ads to people on a platform like that, like you can really get into it and really target the exact people that you want to see.
Exactly.
And then it doesn't have to be expensive, because you're actually serving ads to people that you want to actually reach.
Exactly. And here's the thing. That's why so many people are saying that TikTok has questionable ethics, is because some of their stuff is, I wouldn't say invasive, but it's pretty data rich. You can target people under the age of 18 to 13. You can target with your ads, whereas most other advertisers limit it from 18 and up. Whereas TikTok also allows you to target people based on their iOS on their phone. So if you know you only want to serve to iOS 14 and below or above, then you can do that with TikTok. The kind of segmentation is very rich in TikTok, and I think it's because they don't have to answer to the same rules as most of these other advertisers do in the US. So yeah.
Well, I think it's very fascinating. Just diving deeper and hearing all of these things. I think there's so much more to be shared. But what is sort of the big advice that you can give to people? Like, let's say the top 5 things that they need to do to ensure that they get the best out of their paid media.
So I would say the top 3 things that I'd advise people to do is, firstly, start checking your tracking, since your tracking is the number one thing that you measure your efficiency of the ads on. So if your tracking is on point, then the rest will kind of fall in place. And the second thing is, make sure your copy and your content is on point, since people are not on social platforms or on search engines to read essays. They're there to make a quick action, make a quick buy, or they're there to scroll.
Yeah, you're just there to grab their attention. Exactly. And like you said earlier, the copy will be in the website or wherever it is you can take them.
Exactly. And you kind of want to cash in on the impulsive buying, and we see that a lot of times happening. Impulsive buys are still a real thing, so you want to capitalize on that. And the last thing I would say is just analyze your accounts. Come speak to us. We have a great team of people that can analyze your ads account if you do run ads. If you don't run ads, come speak to us too. We can help you set that up. But
why aren't you running ads?
Why aren't you running ads? You're leaving it out, like the Americans like to say. You have the low-hanging fruit. You got to get that low-hanging fruit. So exactly.
No, I think it's very important to get into paid media, even if it's in some way, shape, or form, either just to find your business on Google, if it's going to your website, getting more information on people, trying to lead to sales. I think it's always important just to get your name out there, because everybody else is doing it.
Of course.
And if you're not doing it, you're just going to be at the bottom of that list and people will never get to see you.
Exactly. And it's funny you should mention that. It's one of the campaigns that we are doing, as the client is asking us, hey, why do you want to bid on our own name? Like, people, if they're searching for our brand name, they will know they're looking for a brand name. But the thing is, like you mentioned, other people are bidding on your brand name. So if you're not bidding on it, you're leaving money out on the table. So
I've actually seen it a lot where companies use other companies' names, so because they know you might be the bigger name out there, but that still ranks you in that system. So if you don't do it for yourself, then you're just sort of leaving it out there.
Exactly.
To sort of have other people use it for you.
Yeah, to have other people fight over it.
Exactly. So this was very fascinating. Before we wrap up, I know you already said that if people are looking for paid, they can come speak to you, but where can they sort of get in contact? What's the website? Who are you again? Maybe give an email. I don't know. Just tell people where they can find you.
I guess the best way to find me would be at fuzz.digital. We have one of the coolest URLs for a website. So it's simply just go to fuzz.digital and you'll find everything you need. Hit contact us and you can help you with everything you need. But if you need to contact me directly, you can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. My LinkedIn name, I should have said, is Christian Delpoort. So it's my full name. And on Instagram, it's also my full name. It's Christian Delpoort.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sort of giving us I would say, a slight scoop of paid media, even though it felt very in-depth. I found it very fascinating. I think a lot of people out there will also find it very fascinating.
Hope so.
And yeah, thank you so much for lending your expertise. And hopefully we'll get you on for a second episode or a third episode even.
Definitely. And let's go fuzz things up.